It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and TanMan.
Gang, welcome into episode 141 of the Border War. I am the TanMan, a little sadder today. I'm here with BG, maybe a little happier, as happy as you can be at 0-5, I guess. We'll see. We want to thank you for listening and remind you you can follow us on Twitter at the Border War. He is at BG_Border War. Maybe he'll create a new Twitter handle like at Frustrated Redskins Fan. I don't know. We'll talk about it. Maybe I'll get him to say something before the end of the show. I am at Tar Heel TanMan. We're on Facebook. We're on basically anywhere where podcasts are consumed. So BG, Week 5 in the NFL, almost in the books. It is for you guys. It is for us. How was your weekend, man? Like, no Gamecock football. At least the Gamecocks didn't lose this weekend.
Pretty good.
That's it?
Yep.
Like the biggest news of the day, and all you guys, it's pretty good. You're like Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands. Team was real good. They ran real fast.
Look, let's just go ahead and jump into it, right? Obviously, I think everybody listening to the show knows that Jay Gruden was fired this morning. I hated being right about so many things last week. We sat here in this room. I told you he would be fired after the Patriots game, right?
Well, technically, we were in a different room last week. We weren't in this room.
That's
we
true.
In a different room.
That's true. I told you that. I told you that Colt McCoy would start against the Patriots. And someone who's not on the inside of this as a fan, you thought that sounded crazy. And I agree with you. But I told you it would happen. And now, Bill Callahan has been promoted to the head coach. I don't think anybody believes Bill Callahan is going to be the next head coach. But it would be hilarious if he won 4 games and somehow anyway.
What I think would be hilarious.
But he already announced that Dwayne Haskins is not even in. And there was even some question about whether he would dress. And get this. The people on Twitter, the big guys that are coming out saying how stupid that is, Dwayne Haskins is retweeting that stuff right now. It's a train wreck.
Well, he's right. It is stupid. Look,
of course it is.
What I want to see happen is I still have a deep harbor dislike of Bill Callahan for what he did to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. He takes over for Frank Solich and basically runs it into, and they've never been the same. So
they have not.
For as long as I live, I will be an enemy of Bill Callahan. But what I want to see happen for the remainder of the season, I want Bill Callahan and the Redskins to win about 4 or 5 more games. Just like you said, just enough games that it's going to knock you out of that top spot, so that you're out of the Tua Tagovailoa sweepstakes.
Yeah.
You're out of the Justin Herbert sweepstakes, and then you're stuck again next year, because that's the path you're headed on now.
Right.
If you keep doing what they say, if they do what you say they have said they're going to do,
because it really
they're
does.
Not going to play Dwayne Haskins this time next year. We are still going to be sitting here next summer going, well, I wonder what Washington has with Haskins. At least with Arizona, when they traded Rosen.
Yeah, let it be ugly, man. Throw him out there.
They put Rosen out there, and they decided, look, that's not our guy. Cool. I disagreed with it. I'm pretty sure you did too.
Yeah,
but listen, they saw enough of him, and they made a move. You guys, it doesn't seem like you're going to play Haskins at all, and it absolutely floors me. This is the dumbest move I have heard of any NFL team doing forever.
And I think, and this is just me, and I'm not in any way agreeing with this take or trying to justify it, but I think the school of thought is that Haskins is so unprepared for the NFL right now that it would crush his confidence to the point that he couldn't recover. Well, if that's true, then he's not an NFL quarterback anyway.
Right.
He's not an NFL quarterback anyway. If he's not, but because there is no place to learn how to do this except on the field. I don't understand it. And I mean, how can I go on caring? I mean, it's so wrong-headed
Well, no, look, we said last week that we were on the verge of striking the Redskins from the top page, the top billing here on the show.
Because what
joking around, kind of, but kind of not.
No. Yeah, because you can't. I mean, it's just a broken record. And like, if I'm Bill Callahan and I'm sitting here and you're asking me, how do I justify starting Case Keenum or Colt McCoy? What am I trying to do? Am I trying to win games? Does that mean something right now?
No.
I mean, like, I don't.
As a matter of fact, that goes against basically everything that makes any sense whatsoever right now. Because you've got an opportunity. You've got the Miami Dolphins this week. All right. Guess what they're doing? They're in the mix for, they're trying to get Tua Tagovailoa next year too. They're probably going to be in the mix for another quarterback. And poor Josh Rosen is going to be on his third team in 3 years next year too.
Right.
You don't want to beat the Dolphins, man. Like I said, at this point, if Dwayne Haskins, if he's not prepared, if he's not doing his work, if he's not going about, you know who else they said that same kind of stuff about? Johnny Manziel.
Yep.
That he wasn't ready, he was not prepared, and Cleveland put him out there. You know what they did? They got the heck out from under him pretty rapidly.
Now, to be clear, I
haven't
heard anybody say that Haskins isn't doing the work. Just that he's...
Well, if he's unprepared...
Now, what I mean is he's not yet ready to be an NFL quarterback. Maybe I'm stating it the wrong way. I don't mean a work ethic question, just his readiness, the number of games he played in college, his ability to read the playbook, to remember the playbook. I mean, that's the take I'm getting from it, which is why, again, this whole division started, right? And Gruden didn't want him. Everyone is saying Gruden wanted Daniel Jones, but the thing is, he couldn't have had him.
I personally wouldn't have guessed it, but all the people in the know say Daniel Jones was not going to be there when they drafted. So,
right.
I mean, why do we keep? Why does his name keep coming up with Washington? If it wasn't going to happen,
right?
Then why is it still a thing?
And the thing is, like we talked about this all last season, like the fact that Teddy Bridgewater was never even really considered. That kind of stuff blows my mind. The fact that Josh Rosen was never even considered kind of blows my mind.
That's the one we were both like, yes, go get that guy. Because you knew he was going to be available. You knew Arizona was going to take a quarterback probably, and he was the guy. Said Josh Rosen's going to be available.
And you could have gotten him for peanuts.
And you could have got him for almost nothing, man.
And they gave him away. You would have still had that number 12 pick, right? You'd have still had... and the thing is, because the Redskins have drafted well, which is why I don't think this was all Gruden's fault, but at the same time, there's no justification behind one bad quarterback pick. Case Keenum has played well enough at quarterback to not be 0-5.
No,
that's the bottom line.
And
so, he needed to go, but I have very little hope for the future. And Bruce Allen going into his 10th year in Washington. I mean, just go back and look at the stuff that this guy has presided over. His first act as GM or president or whatever he was called then was to sign Donovan McNabb and Albert Hainsworth. That was his first move. All the RG3 stuff, all the stuff with hiring Jim Zorn, who hadn't even been an offensive coordinator, all the stuff with Kirk Cousins, all the stuff with RG3, all the stuff now with Trent Williams, all of that is under the umbrella of this one guy, and he's allowed to stay. He's allowed to go be the voice of the franchise at the press conference, and he's allowed to stand there and say our culture is, quote, damn good. It's insane.
Look,
it's crazy.
You have beat the nail. You have beat the nail over the head. It's a dead horse. Listen, the problem, and everybody knows it. It was all over TV today. The problem there is Daniel Snyder. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way.
And I'm blaming Allen because he's just an extension of Snyder. I mean, he's just Snyder's mouth.
As I say,
which is why he's been there for 10 years.
He's part of the Snyder problem. That's Snyder's guy. And look, I wish I could tell you something. I wish I could paint a better picture for you as a fan. But it's not, man. It's not going to get better up there.
It is not. And the difference is... We've talked about how, as much as the Cowboys and Redskins supposedly hate each other, that in a lot of ways they're the same franchise. But here's the difference. there are people in the Dallas organization who tell Jerry no, and he listens occasionally.
I feel like
you've talked about this. He wanted Johnny Manziel,
yes,
and he was told no, and he listened. But in Washington, if we had wanted Johnny Manziel, then Snyder would have gotten Johnny Manziel.
I feel like Dallas is about 7 or 8 years ahead of Washington. Does that make sense?
Like in a cycle or in a trajectory? Because Washington's not on a trajectory.
No. I mean, you guys are just in a bottomless pit right now. I'm just talking about, like 7 or 8 years ago, like Jerry Jones figured, because he used to do that stuff. The Albert Haynes. Listen, man, we went out and signed Tank Johnson and Pac-Man Jones. We did all that stuff, man. Right. We did all that stuff, but
some of it might be less about time as an owner and more about age too.
Yeah,
Snyder is in his early 50s. He's not Jerry Jones.
No,
but Jerry Jones is his idol.
But
he's trying to be Jerry Jones.
Well, and he needs to pick up the telephone and ask Jerry Jones, hey, how did that 2 decades in between after your last Super Bowl, how did that work out for you doing this? And like I said, I think they're like 7 or 8 years ahead of Washington in that Jerry Jones stopped doing that.
But again,
and empowered other
people.
people.
I hope that's right, because that would imply that you think Daniel Snyder is going to change at some point.
Well, I was going to say,
but wouldn't that have already happened? I mean, like, how many press reports about himself does he have to read where he's just getting...
Like I said...
Did you see Tom Brady's quotes about the game, man?
Yeah,
he goes, this was a home game.
It was a joke. I heard several Patriots say that. Look, maybe the light comes on for Snyder somewhere down the road.
And I do think he has backed off considerably. But the problem is, when he does move in, he moves in a complete, 100%. Well, this is our quarterback, and he's done it twice in a row.
It's like he falls in love with guys. It's not about the Redskins. I don't think he could make a tough decision. You know what I mean? He's decided that Dwayne Haskins, is his guy. And come hell or high water, they were taking Dwayne Haskins in that draft, right?
Yeah.
Seems like way. I don't think if Haskins goes out there and totally bombs that he would be like, well, maybe I was wrong. He would keep forth. They force fed the RG3 thing.
Well,
until it was painfully obvious to everybody this is not going to work.
If there was ever a time for Dan Snyder to hold his own press conference,
it should have been
today was the day.
It should have been,
because this fan base is done. And then keep in mind now, this is the same Dan Snyder during 2008, when people were losing their houses, that sued 40-year season ticket holders because they couldn't pay the fee.
I remember that.
Okay, this is the same Dan Snyder that, and I'm not going to get into it, but who won't even entertain the idea of changing that mascot name. And if you don't think that's keeping certain free agents away, you've lost your mind, because it flat out is. Mm-hmm. This is the same Dan Snyder who allowed today his president of football operations, Bruce Allen, to go into a press conference, and when asked about, 45,000 Patriots or Cowboys fans or whoever happens to be in the stadium that week, he says, quote, "You're going to have to ask our season ticket holders about that. That's their issue."
No,
says that out loud, and that's okay with him.
That's your issue. That's
unbelievable.
That's an organization issue. Does the firing of Jay Gruden do anything as far as
I feel bad for Jay Gruden
sparking fan interest in the team?
No, it doesn't do anything. I think if anything, it's like, I'll tell you what it's like. You ever been like when you were a kid? Maybe you're home late on a Sunday afternoon. You haven't done your homework. You're in a bad mood. Pat Summerall's already said Murder, She Wrote's next. It's getting late. Okay.
Except on the West Coast.
You're in a bad mood. You haven't done your homework. You're not ready for school the next day, and you're not going to do your homework, and you're hungry, and your parents are out, and the only thing you can find is a stale moon pie. And that stale moon pie looks so good, and you think, oh, this is going to make things better. And as soon as you finish eating it, you feel worse. That's what firing Jay Gruden was, a stale moon pie. It seems like a panacea, if you will, a Band-Aid, if you will, but no, it doesn't change anything. It's going to be the exact same situation.
Well, look, I saw some interesting. We know Callahan's taking over for right now. I saw some interesting names on a few of the way too early coaching list. Yeah, of course, Mike Tomlin's name is coming up. Got to stop it.
Tomlin's
It's
not getting
not.
fired.
It's not Mike Tomlin. I think what was the guy's name you said?
Eric Bieniemy, who's the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Long-time Bengals running back from back in the day, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, Eric Bieniemy.
I wasn't born until 1983. So
okay, well, there you go.
Sports started in 1991, as far as I'm concerned, except for the 1982 NCAA basketball championship. That's a different story. One name that I did hear on the list,
and the 1982 Super Bowl. That was a good one too.
Well,
back in the day.
I was just saying, one of those things has continued to build through history, and one has fallen off the cliff. And we'll let you decide, the listeners, which one of those has withstood the test of time. One name I found very, very interesting, and I am like praying to the football gods out there. Jason Garrett.
Why are we wasting?
Jason Garrett is on the list, man, and it makes sense, BG.
Because he would be the kind of owner that Snyder would love, because he would just, yes, sir.
Same
reason he does well in Dallas.
Well, listen, but how long has Jason Garrett been the head coach now?
I really don't know. I mean, 40 years, 50.
It feels like about 107, but it's been a good handful of years, right? He's the longest tenured head coach. Heck, I don't know without in front. He might be the longest tenured head coach in the NFC for all I know.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
who understands the NFC East better than that guy as a head coach?
Oh, now we're pumping him up?
I'm not pumping him up. I'm saying it makes sense. I feel like things, coaches' voices get stale. Everybody will tell you that. All the great coaches will tell you that. After a certain time, it's time to move on. Locker room. I think the voice in Dallas, I think it's gotten stale, but a fresh start. Well, I think a fresh start in the nation's capital is exactly what he needs.
You need to stop.
What?
You are so full of crap.
No, I think that could rejuvenate Jason Garrett's career.
Shut up.
I think it could.
You can't even keep a straight face when you say it.
Well, no, I can't keep a straight face because we just got an email come in on the Border War email line. This one says, I can't believe all the Jay Gruden hate you guys have out there. That man did the best job anybody could possibly do with that clown Bruce Allen and the worst owner in all of sports running the show. I am so glad he got out of that place, signed Gray Juden from Ashburn, Virginia. Gray Juden.
Now we know who our listener in Ashburn, Virginia is.
All these years, it's been Gray Juden.
Yeah.
I do. I think that
here's the thing.
I think Garrett would be a fantastic addition to the Redskins.
You can make those excuses about Gruden, and some of that is true, but there's more talent on that team than an 0-5. I mean, come on. That team is not. He did not have that locker room, and that's apparent from listening to some of the players' comments, even before the fire.
Well, I've seen Dallas teams, I could think back just a few years ago when Garrett took over. We fired Wade Phillips midseason. We played the Packers on a Sunday night game or a Monday night game, and it was like 40-0 in the third quarter. And I said, that's it. I'm done with this. The next morning, Phillips was out of there, and the team did. The team turned around. They won. I think they went 3-5 down the stretch, which was probably 3 more games than they had won to that point, it felt like. But I've seen these coaching changes work. And like I said, lo and behold, here's Jason Garrett still with a job. So maybe you win enough. Maybe Callahan sticks around. Maybe the Cowboys tank like they did the last few weeks. There are
organizations where I think Bill Callahan could be an above-average head coach. Washington's not one of them because he does not have what you have to have in Washington. Kind of like, you remember what we talked about with Muschamp down in Columbia, and I told you, I don't even know if I said this on the air or not. I think we might have been having this talk on the phone. For South Carolina to do well in the SEC, you have to have a guy like Spurrier. You have to have a guy whose personality is so dynamic and is so all-encompassing that the media down there is a little bit afraid to go after him, right? That certain people can't do the normal routine. So in Washington, what you have to have is somebody who's so well-liked or so competent, right, that Snyder can't undercut him or it's going to backfire on him. And that is not Bill Callahan. But I don't think anybody thinks it's Bill Callahan. That's kind of a waste of a topic because he's being promoted because he's there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, my thing is this.
Why not promote Kevin O'Connell, the offensive coordinator, who's in his late 20s, early 30s? Give him a crack, man. Because he's that kid who's going to win a Super Bowl somewhere 5 years from now, and everybody's going to forget that he was even in D.C.
And Washington's still going to be 5-11.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
Listen, I said you should go with Jason Garrett. That's my pick, and I'm going to stick to it.
Man, you're a fool.
I am not a fool.
I'll tell you what, though, and I'll say this, and I mean it, and if it ruins the show, it ruins the show. If we hire Jason Garrett, I'm done. I am done with that franchise.
With the show or just the
No,
team?
I'll be on the show, but we're going to have to redefine the nature of
Well,
our
we've already
relationship.
came up with a new name for the show. We did that before.
We can't say that one on the air.
No, look.
So we'll have to have a poll.
Yeah.
We will have to have a poll, and we will list all the terrible teams in the NFL. The Titans are kind of my inside pick right now.
Pick somebody better than Titans, man. That's like saying. Yeah,
I can't pick somebody who's.
That's like
I can't
saying
be a bandwagon.
That's like well, that's fine, but that's like saying my favorite candy is red licorice. Stop it, man. Nobody's favorite candy is red licorice.
Okay, so
right.
The Bills. That's too. I can't handle that. That's too much.
Look, man, we have a lot to get to in this episode. We don't have time.
Talk
for you
about
to,
Dallas losing again.
We don't have
think about my next.
We don't
NFL.
have time for you. We've already devoted 20 minutes to that dumpster fire up there in nation's capital. No, we're not talking about the Donald Trump presidency right now. That was a Washington Redskins. So let's move on to a slightly less smoldering dumpster fire in Dallas, BG. The Cowboys, 2 straight losses.
You said this was a must-win, man.
I did. I felt
and they
like
didn't show up.
It was a must. Well, my problem is 2 straight losses. I said before the season, look, you got to come out of this stretch at 1-1.
Are we still going to win the Super Bowl? Is that where we're going with this season? Like they're going to win the Super Bowl?
Look, I think they're at an interesting crossroads
Well,
right now.
they're not going to win the Super Bowl if that was a must-win. You got to pick one of those.
I think they're at an interesting crossroads right now because I've seen this team, the fourth quarter notwithstanding, everybody wants to go, oh, these offensive numbers. Oh, look at the most yards ever in a loss.
That was points for
Stop
time.
it,
Points
man.
for time.
Stop
Points
it.
for time.
For the last, I would say 8 quarters, basically the last 2 football games, and even if you go back to the first half against Miami, this offense that was setting the world on fire the first few weeks, tell me I'm not looking at a paper tiger. Tell me, BG, that I wasn't looking at a paper tiger those first couple weeks because this has been a disaster the last couple weeks, and there's no excuse for it.
I don't understand. I don't understand why the running game can't get going. And I pay particular attention to it because Zeke Elliott is the cornerstone of Zeke's freaks, my dominant fantasy football.
Did you win
team.
this week? I didn't even look.
Of course I did.
Did you?
Won both leagues, man.
Okay.
4-0 in my last 2 weeks.
Hey, look at you.
Yeah, the podcast team, however, is pathetic. I beat Kylie this week, so just equally pathetic. Okay, but she is not good at fantasy football.
She's not.
She's good at a lot of things.
I hope she's not listening because I want her to keep playing. We need her to keep playing.
Oh, if you are listening,
like we have to have a Redskins.
You're great, Kylie.
We have to have every league has a Redskins.
Thanks for being our producer.
That's them.
Keep pulling for the University of Indiana. Isn't that what she wants us to call them? Yeah. No, she's a Purdue fan. Right?
No, she's Indiana. Indiana Technical College. I don't know.
Anyway,
terrible.
But no, they can't get Zeke any consistent carries, and I don't know. They just look out of sync on offense all the time, and it's not a protection issue. I didn't see Dak running for his life. I think it's this, and I tried to tell you this, and he's gonna. Like Kirk Cousins, he's going to turn around and answer his critics with a big game here any day now, right? But Dak was drafted in the 4th round for a reason, and there are times when
that's not fair because in the NFL, lots of guys fall through the cracks in those 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds. That's not
I'm
entirely
talking
fair.
about lots of guys. I'm talking about Dak Prescott, okay? And I think he is a good NFL quarterback. But I think he needs other things to happen around him. And those things were not happening the past 2 weeks. And I don't know what else to call it. I mean, I saw him miss.
He had some bad throws.
A dozen.
He had some bad throws.
But I would say tough throws, right? But they're throws that Aaron Rodgers is making.
Well,
I'm just saying, though, but you're talking about winning a Super Bowl, dude.
Yeah.
And if you're going to win a Super Bowl and you're going to get paid $40 million, then you damn well better throw those passes complete. And he's not. He's not. Now, he's not Cam Newton like throwing ducks on a 12-yard out route. He's not doing that. But what I'm saying is, I think Dak Prescott is a real reflection of your offensive coordinator's ability to call plays, and I think right now he's up against it.
I think one of the concerns
that's what I was really trying to get to.
One of the concerns Cowboy fans had coming into the year was Kellen Moore's offensive coordinator, and I'm pretty sure I probably said 2 years ago this guy was a backup quarterback. He didn't really. I'm not gonna say he didn't earn the job, but he wouldn't be an offensive coordinator in any of the other 31 NFL teams, right?
Right.
This is it only because he was already here. Now I'm starting to wonder, okay, maybe he's in over his head just a tad.
Well,
because look,
maybe there's tendencies that people are picking up at this point.
Look, last week Ezekiel Elliott had 30-something yards. This week, he averaged 5 yards a carry. He had 60 yards. The problem is he only had 12 carries. Well, when you're down 31-3 in the third quarter, guess what you're not going to do? You're not going to run the football. What is the Dallas Cowboy offense built around?
Running the
football. So, they have just come out and completely laid a dud. But I told a friend in our group text that goes on all the time the other day, look, to be totally honest, I would love to win a Super Bowl, but you know what winning a Super Bowl does? That ensures you another 5 years of Jason Garrett. I want to go 12-4, 11-5, be good enough to get in the playoffs and lose in the first playoff game so that Jerry Jones gets that taste. Like we're right there on the verge of winning the Super Bowl. And he starts that little seed is planted in the back of his head.
You really
you think this might not be the guy.
Is that predictable though? Because the past few years that got Garrett a contract extension. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I think this is different.
This is different because he didn't sign him to one this year.
I think this is different. I feel like he knows, and they say he knows the clock is running out. Like he doesn't have, when this window closes, and I believe that this window to win a Super Bowl is open right now, and I believe it'll be open for another couple years. But you know that the difference between being a Super Bowl contender and being able to win the Super Bowl and just being another really good playoff team is razor thin.
Sure.
And that window will close on you. Just ask the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Ask the Seahawks how fast that window closed. They're just now starting
They'll
to kind of
probably win the Super Bowl this year now that you've said
well,
that.
that's what I'm saying. They just now are starting to kind of pry that window back open there. But that window that they had a few years ago, that opened and shut as fast as anything else, right?
Oh, sure.
I think this window for the Cowboys is open right now. I think it'll be open probably the year after that, too. And Jerry knows that when this thing closes, this is it. Like, this core group is his last run at a Super Bowl, and I don't think he's going to stake it all on Jason Garrett. If they can't get it done, I think he will move on.
They can do whatever they want with Jason Garrett except for one thing, and that's all I'm going to say.
No, we're going to fire him, and 6 days later, he's going to be Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder are going to sit at a podium in Ashburn, Virginia, and announce that Jason Garrett's you won't even be able to tell. Like his hair and his shirt are just going to mend into one color.
I'm not on board anymore.
Well, it's pretty clear they don't care if you're on board.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You don't think they care if I listen? If I'm? I mean, that's why they're listening to the show every week. Maybe they're not.
Well,
now.
no, that was Gray Juden listening to the show every
anymore.
week. Not any of those two. But yeah, I can start kind of seeing it. Like I said, nothing. No other way to describe the last 2 weeks other than frustrating. Extremely frustrating. I mean, and like I said, even going back to the week before Miami, that first half of the Miami game was like 10-6. Man, Miami's one of the worst teams in football. You're at 10-6 at halftime. Stop it.
Yeah, you wonder about the kill instinct on that Cowboys squad because you can't just get up for the games you can. I mean, well, that's what's scary. I mean, they play well against three terrible teams, right? And we talked about that. I talked about that. You disagreed. Look, man, I think
Well, and
I think it's a 10-16.
Well, see, the thing is, it's not that they've lost. Excuse me. There's no shame in losing to the Packers. There's no shame in losing to the Saints, but it's the way that they've done it. Like they've been punchless.
But again,
they've been punchless.
Let me just throw this out there again. If you are that Super Bowl team, yeah, you're going to lose to one of those guys. You're not going to lose to both of them and not 2 weeks in a row.
Fair enough.
And they were not in that Green Bay game.
No, they weren't.
Don't tell me that final score.
No. That score is
the game
not
was
indicative.
over at the end of the first quarter. I mean, as it turned out, because Dallas, they just had no fight in them, and I think that's where Garrett hurts you, because man, when it's about adjustments because he is like a lot of NFL coaches, completely uninvolved.
Except when he's throwing a challenge flag, he gets fired up over that, man.
Well, he got a 15-yard penalty called on. I didn't know he knew words that could get you a 15-yard. I figured he was a gosh darn it referee.
Dang it, ref.
Yeah.
His foot was in. Flag, 15 yards.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know, man. And then, of course, who they got this week? They got the Jets. So what are they going to do? They're going to pound the Jets, right?
Sure.
Oh, that's almighty. We'll start with our picks. The picks list not complete. We usually do the show on Tuesday. We moved it to Monday this week. So as it stands right now, I'm at 5-4. BG's at 4-5. I think we both. You took the Niners. I took the Browns tonight. So we'll see how that turns out. We'll stay in the NFL with our NFL picks.
We might need to quit doing these, man.
These are not good. This is not our finest hour,
us
man.
Look like, I don't know if I would listen to us
This
anymore.
is not our finest hour.
If I kept hearing this stuff.
We've been in the NFL all show long, so we'll stay there to start off our picks list. Panthers and the Bucks. This one over in London. The Buccaneers are the 1.5 favorites. I don't quite understand this one. Maybe
they just think Panthers' luck's going to run out here at some point.
As I said, maybe it's the going overseas thing. I don't know. So, BG, you're taking the Panthers and the points in this one.
I'm going to take the Bucks. I think they're exactly right. I don't think the Panthers are going to run up some 6-7 game win streak. I think they're a pretty good team. It's about time for that offense to struggle. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know. Is he still asleep right now? Like, has he even woken up after what they did to him yesterday? I don't know how long that can be all you've got.
Listen, man.
And I think the Bucks are playing surprisingly well, and it just fits the narrative of the NFL, right? Yeah. Right around the time you think you know something, you don't.
It's going to flip.
You don't. So I really want to pick the Panthers, but I've just learned the law of averages. Neither one of those teams are great, so it's probably Tampa Bay's turn to win this game.
I'm going to take Carolina in this one. If you're going to give me the Panthers and the points, I'll take them. Look, they're going overseas, going to London, which means they get to see Tampa again, and they don't have again in a short window of time, and they don't have to go on the road to play them. I am a little concerned because I'm on the Kyle Allen train, man. I think if I were Carolina, I would stay. I would ride the Kyle Allen train till it ran out of gas. But he's got to learn how to hang on to the football. Too many fumbles for them to really be successful. So he cleans that up. I think he's got a chance to take the job.
Sure.
And we'll leave it there.
Sure.
The Saints at the Jaguars, BG. Jaguars lost a tough one this past Sunday. This was a straight up pick 'em. This one is a straight up pick 'em. Give me the Saints. I think New Orleans and Teddy Bridgewater have found a little something. Probably courtesy of the Cowboys, and they've just kind of kept it rolling. I said last week I'm on the Uncle Rico train down in Jacksonville too, but give me New Orleans in this one. If I don't have to give points either.
Where's this game?
It is at Jacksonville.
I don't know that matters much. I'll go with the Saints too.
See. Here's one. Redskins at the Dolphins. The Dolphins are only getting 3.5 points at home. I don't know what to make, man. Because
I'm surprised there's a line on at this point. You don't know what the motivation of either one of these.
Well, I was going to say, you see, I think we kind of know what the deal with the Dolphins is, but sometimes when you make a coaching change in midseason, I think it's fine in baseball. I know it's fine in basketball, but in football, there's so few games and there's so much work that goes. You don't know how teams are going to respond to that. They're your team, so I'll give you the first pick on this one. The battle for the number one pick in the 2020 NFL Draft gets underway Sunday. Who you got, man?
I think the Redskins probably win this game. I do. I think they win it by, was it 3.5?
3.5? I'm going to take Miami.
Yeah, no, I'll take Miami
with
with the 3.5. If it was 3, I think maybe I could see the Redskins winning by 3. I don't think they win it by 4.
Look, and I'll tell you, it would shock me if Miami just straight up wins the game.
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if either team wins 40-0. I mean, who knows? Like you said, because whatever breaks early in that game, that's what's going to happen.
Well, look,
nobody's coming back in this game. None of that's going to go on.
No, watch this be like the game of the year too. Watch this be like the best game all year long, like a Rams Chiefs last year on Thursday Night Football. I could see. I think Miami is actually trying. I just don't think that they're any good. I'm not sure you guys are really even trying at this point.
Well, it depends on who you think we are. You talking about the players? You're talking about the coaches? Or you talking about
just the whole thing? I think that's just. I think the vendors aren't even walking up and down the stairs at the stadium anymore. They just quit. Cowboys at the Jets. Maybe our offensive woes contributed to this line a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but the Jets are only getting 8.5 points in this one. The offense has been terrible for 9 of the last 12 quarters. This is a get-well game Sunday.
Do we know who's starting at quarterback for the Jets yet? I mean, that's a big question.
I would assume Sam Darnold is on the way back here pretty soon, but I don't know.
It's either this week or next week.
This week or next
Darnold
week
starts, that's a really big spread.
Well,
if he doesn't start, then that probably isn't big enough.
Well, look, I think whether he starts or he doesn't start, I think the Cowboys. This is a get-well game. They're going to get the offense on track Sunday. Cowboys win this one by 10 to 2 touchdowns.
If you had won against Green Bay, I think this would have been a dangerous game. But
right.
As it stands, I agree with you. I think I'll go with the Cowboys.
And the Sunday night game we always pick, and I thought about switching it, but the other two games that I wanted, you got Seattle. A couple other games. The Browns are playing. I think the Seahawks, but I was like, well, they're both playing in our game tonight, so I don't want to pick them.
Right.
So we just stick with the Sunday night game.
You don't want to pick a team that hasn't even played this week.
Right.
Right.
So we went Steelers and Chargers. Chargers -6. Man, look, Mason Rudolph took a lick on Sunday. Steelers are going to be on their third-string quarterback.
Who didn't really look like a quarterback.
I don't even know who that is.
He looks like he was every bit of 5'10".
Chargers -6.5. Look, I might give you a triple on that. Chargers win this one big.
I agree with you there.
Over to the college side.
And the Chargers are good defense.
Good defense.
Yeah.
And all 14 people that can fit in that stadium are going to be there to see it. I want to go to the game, man. That would be awesome.
It would be.
Over to the college side, we got about 7 minutes remaining, BG. So a loaded slate, not so much this past weekend. This coming weekend is huge. We'll start at noon with a couple of noon games. The first one, U of SC at number 3, Georgia. The line this morning, 24.5 points.
I hope that I don't think this game will be close. Georgia wins it easily, but I would like to think that South Carolina, hopefully with a healthy Ryan Helinski, we talked about last week, we would find out what the actual issue there, because he's had 2 weeks now, no throwing, or not in game to find out
if he's going to be healthy. It's going to be now.
Healthy, with a pretty good 1-2 punch at running back. I also think South Carolina's defensive line is good enough to stymie that Georgia rushing attack enough with Ken Law on the inside to keep this game closer than that. So I'll go with South Carolina.
Listen, I told you the other week, I'm not touching South Carolina anything short of 4 touchdowns. 24.5 is not 4 touchdowns. I see this thing being something like 48-17, something in that neighborhood. Georgia wins huge. I'm giving the 24.5 at home. Noon kickoff. No, the Dogs, listen, they're on a mission, man. They've got bigger things ahead of them. The other noon game, Oklahoma at Texas. Last year, it felt like Texas stole this one a little bit. The Sooners come in ranked 6th. The Longhorns 11th, barely hanging on for their playoff lives in Austin. They're getting 9.5 in this one. Again, I think Oklahoma is one of the to me, at times, last week at Kansas notwithstanding, I think they have looked like one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country basically all year. I think last year's game is going to fuel them a little bit. I think they beat Texas by about 10. So if I'm going to give up 9.5, I'll take it.
I'm going to go with the Longhorns. I think Oklahoma wins the game by at least a touchdown, but I think this rivalry keeps it close. Tom Herman's been pretty good in this series so far, so we'll see what happens.
Alabama, number 1 in the country after the Tar Heels near miss against the Tigers. They take on Texas A&M, ranked number 24. The Aggies. Look, there was a time when this was the biggest hurdle in Alabama's schedule. It's not anymore. The Aggies getting 18 points in this one, BG. Is that enough to make you slide over to College Station?
Roll Tide.
I agree. Alabama's going to win this one, much like Georgia. They've got bigger fish to fry ahead of them. Looking ahead to that LSU game in a couple weeks. Florida, another. Used to be a great game every year. Florida State at Clemson. Clemson giving up 26 points in this one. Look, I'll take Clemson in the points. Florida State, they beat somebody the other week. Louisville, I think.
Clemson can play. No. Clemson can play poorly and win by 4 touchdowns.
Again, on the flip side, I think to me that's more of an indictment on Florida State. Not that I think Clemson is played.
Clemson's going to hit the big plays.
Yeah, Clemson has not played well enough that I would feel comfortable giving up that amount of points like I would with an Ohio State or with an Alabama. I just think Florida State's that bad.
Yeah.
And lastly on the list, maybe the best game of the day Saturday, number 7 Florida coming off a great win against Auburn. You
guys have a bye?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Carolina's got a bye this week. We go up to Virginia Tech next week.
Okay.
And so the last game, Florida at LSU. Listen, for years and years, the knock on LSU was they don't have an offense. Defense is great. Defense will stay. They'll keep it. Boy, they have got an offense now. This is a huge line. The Tigers are giving up 13 in this one.
Look, I've said it since the season started. I don't buy Florida. I think LSU beats the snot out of Florida in Death Valley Saturday night.
8 o'clock Eastern kickoff, so I guess that'll be a 7 o'clock game.
I think LSU,
night game in Baton Rouge.
I think LSU wins this game by 21 points or more.
Yeah, I don't think it would not surprise. I would be more surprised by Florida holding it close than I would be by LSU winning this thing 42-7. So I think LSU is going to win it big. I'll give the 13, and that will wrap us up. Man, we even did that with 2 minutes to spare. Have you got anything else Jay Gruden related, Jason Garrett related?
I do not.
Did we get all that covered in episode 141 here?
For what it's worth, not really our box anymore. We've kind of moved on from that.
Yeah, what is the score?
Braves up 4-3 in the bottom of the 5th in what could be the deciding game in St. Louis.
Right on, man. Right on. All right, guys.
Big come from behind win last night.
Oh, huge, man. You can email us at carolinaborderwar@gmail.com. If you like Gray Juden, want to get in and give us your thoughts on that one with Gray, please do so. You want to play the picks list along with us? Look, you can't possibly be worse than we have. Whichever one of the platforms you subscribe to or you prefer, like and subscribe to the show. If it lets you, leave a review. Tell us how awesome we are, how much you enjoy the show, and listen. Maybe we'll get Gray Juden to call in next week. We'll do our best. I kind of envy you guys though. You got to fire your coach. We still have ours.
If they hire him, I'm out. Promise you.